Good evening and welcome to the 35th Annual Lucy G. Moses Preservation Awards. We're delighted to see each and every one of you here this evening. 600 strong, or at least 600 cozy. I'm Peg Breen, president of the New York Landmarks Conservancy. The Lucys are our largest and happiest event. I think Mrs. Moses would be pleased and yet somewhat amazed that these have become the Oscars of preservation. We're a bit amazed ourselves. We continue to be supported by the Henry and Lucy Moses Fund, and we're very grateful and glad that Joe Fishman from the fund is with us again tonight. The Lucys remind us every year of amazing preservation that happens throughout the entire city. That's thanks to, of course, to dedicated owners, but also to the talented preservation professionals who make the magic happen. Unlike the Oscars, we try to stick to our schedule. So let's begin with our Preservation Leadership Award. Susan Olsen's career in preservation took her to Virginia, Florida, and Tennessee. But we know her best for her extraordinary 22-year career at Woodlawn Cemetery. As Director of Historical Services, she turned her title and talent into making Woodlawn Cemetery a destination for the living. She is an enthusiastic tour leader with detailed knowledge of the monuments and mausoleums designed by McKim, Mead & White, John Russell Pope, Carrere and Hastings, and other legendary architects. She initiated a survey of Woodlawn's incredible collection of stained glass. And she has tales to tell about the people who commissioned these elaborate final resting places. Susan was instrumental in Woodlawn becoming a national historic landmark. She worked with Columbia University, the World Monuments Fund, and the International Masonry Institute to train the next generation of researchers and preservation and landscape professionals. Her greatest impact in a career of impacts may be on preservation education. While she's retiring, the people she helped train will continue the preservation work Susan has cherished and championed. Welcome, Susan Olsen.
25 years ago, New York's two big-time cemeteries established nonprofit support organizations. With the hope of landing my dream job, I sent proposals to Greenwood and Woodlawn. I want to thank Rich Moylan for not hiring me, as the Bronx is the place to play. Tell that to Juan Soto. Anyway, preserving cemeteries is a team sport. My first call was to Frank Matero, another cemetery lover, who told me the only way to pull this project off was to organize the collection into a GIS map, get a handle on the records, gain landmark status, and become an outdoor learning lab. Okay. And thanks to Janet Parks, we discovered our collection, which led to the designation as a National Historic Landmark. Most of you know, well, Peg told you, that I'm retiring next month and heading off to my next adventure, where I will launch my career as a best-selling murder mystery writer. Popular fiction is the way to inspire the masses to support the preservation movement. Don't worry, all the characters are good-looking, brilliant, and they save the building in the end. So many thanks to Peg Breen and the Landmarks Conservancy for acknowledging all the work that has gone on at Woodlawn. So give yourselves a big round of applause, because it's been you, New York's preservation community, that made it happen.
The Shubert brothers built the Shubert and Booth theaters concurrently between 1912 and 13. They're the oldest theaters on their block. Theatrical architect Henry Beaumont Hertz designed them both in a Venetian Renaissance style. This extensive exterior project cleaned and repaired the brick and terracotta facades of both theaters and the booth's sheet metal cornice. Hertz used decorative sgraffito on both facades. This was rare enough at the time. Now, it's one of the few sgraffito examples left in the city. Sgraffito requires applying multiple layers of tinted plaster to a surface. Then, they are scratched down in certain areas to reveal a design. Concrete patches and painting through the years dulled and hid the sgraffito. The designs were illegible from the street. As those treatments were removed, the figurative elements emerged. So did an unexpected third color. It added depth to the two-toned elements artisans expected. The artisans color matched the historic shadow palette, adding back this detail to nearly all the sgraffito sections. This is likely the largest sgraffito reclamation in the city. The landmark theaters are back-to-back on Schubert Alley, offering award-winning architecture, as well as compelling productions inside.
I'll speak on behalf of the Schubert organization when I say we are honored to accept this award and are very grateful to the New York Landmarks Conservancy, for recognizing the unique feature and architectural design of the sgraffito that make these two buildings, these two theaters, so iconic. Right here in the heart of Times Square, in the heart of the theater district, they stand out as examples of incredible craftsmanship and the beauty this city has to offer. Stop by, look up, and be wowed. Thank you.
The monumental arch at Grand Army Plaza commemorates Union soldiers lost in the Civil War. After receiving its first comprehensive treatment in decades, it again shows the respect those soldiers are due. John Hemingway Duncan was the architect for the 80-foot-tall classical granite arch. Frederick McMonnies embellished it with sculptural figures. He also created the quadriga, an emblem of triumph that tops it. Spiral staircases inside the massive piers led to rooms intended to hold trophies. Earlier repairs allowed expanded public access in the 1980s and 90s. Water infiltration and other safety concerns closed access to the rooms. The arch itself became off-limits in 2012. The City Parks Department and Prospect Park Alliance joined forces to stabilize, repair, restore, and clean the arch. When stones could not be repaired, replacements were sourced from a quarry near the original. New pointing matches the historic mortar. There's a new roof, drainage, and ventilation systems. New steel beams reinforce the roof, supporting the massive quadriga. New energy-efficient lights highlight the arch at dusk. This Brooklyn icon is an emblem of triumph again.
Hi, I'm so thrilled to be here tonight to accept this award on behalf of New York City Parks alongside all of these incredibly impressive projects and honorees. Thank you so much to the New York Landmarks Conservancy for honoring this project that we're so proud of, and for all that you do to support New York City Parks and our preservation work.
I'm not going to say that all over again, but I thank the Landmarks Conservancy. This is a wonderful award for us. I do want to call out the Prospect Park Alliance's design and construction team. David Yum, Rachel Pendleton, Andrew Robertson. So it's a great team in working on this project. Thank you all.
3 New York City Housing Authority projects were entered in the Moses competition for the first time this year, and all 3 are winners. This majestic frieze, by noted Black and LGBT sculptor Richmond Barthé, was installed at the Kingsborough Houses in Brooklyn when they opened in 1941. This WPA project depicts stylized biblical imagery and African dance figures. After years of deferred maintenance, it suffered extreme deterioration, open joints, hairline cracks, large holes, and graffiti. Thanks to public attention, federal, city council, and Mellon Foundation grants restored this frieze. There's a new supportive wall and upgraded lighting. Stephen Wise Towers on the Upper West Side opened in 1965, featuring a landscape plaza. It was filled with 18 abstract cast concrete horse sculptures by Constantino Nivola. In time, they suffered smashed muzzles. Hooves were encased in concrete. They were removed entirely after a 2021 water main break left them severely damaged. The plump figures were cleaned and conserved, but there was no record to guide replacement features. Fortunately, another herd of Nivola horses was found at a school in Columbus, Indiana. Molds from this group helped recreate lost hooves and muzzles. Historic photos and satellite imagery guided the location and angle of the reinstallation. The horses stand proud again in new paving, delighting children and adults once again. The Harlem River houses were built in the mid-1930s, the first federally funded and constructed public housing development in the city. It set a standard for public housing and became a city landmark in 1975. This expansive project repaired and pointed the buildings. Thousands of non-historic windows were replaced with new aluminum casement models matching historic steel ones. Workers restored historic landscaping and upgraded apartment interiors. NYCHA provides more than 500,000 New Yorkers with affordable housing. Let's hope other Moses Awards await.
Very honored to receive this prestigious award on behalf of the NYCHA project management team. It's been a labor of love for us as we manage the restoration of Richmond Barthé majestic and historic piece at Kingsborough House. We are very humbled and very appreciative to be a part of the restoration of this project. Thank you.
The Constantino Nivola Plaza was and still remains the last intact plaza from this artist. And we were able to keep the plaza intact and then also, as you saw, fully restore the horses to the, to correct a lot of the damage that had happened along the way. So we're really thrilled about the ability to do this work. And my partner and I had the opportunity to go and visit the Nivola Found Museum in Sardinia, Italy, and learn more about the artist. And really, what we learned was that he built this, plaza on the Upper West Side for children of all backgrounds to come together in a time when the Upper West Side was gentrifying. And I think, art like this is important to remain public, and also to remind us that in times of change, our city is constantly changing like it was then, that, there are spaces like this to really keep us together as a community, to come together and enjoy spaces like this. So thank you so much.
Harlem River is a very special place. Built in 1936, it was among our city's first public housing, built specifically for African Americans in response to overcrowded and expensive tenements in Harlem at a time when federal public housing was still segregated. It's clear that the original architects of Harlem River houses, which included John Lewis Wilson, one of the first Black architects to be registered in New York State, had a vision of providing all the building blocks a thriving, healthy community needs when they designed Harlem River. The restoration of Harlem River reminds us that to tackle the multiple crises of our time, crises of affordability, of climate, of systemic injustice, we can look to and learn from the past to imagine brighter futures. Thank you so much to all of our partners again. We are very honored to accept this award.
St. Raphael Roman Catholic Church is one of the most visible religious institutions in the city. Its 100-foot steeple is a touchstone for the thousands of daily drivers on the Long Island Expressway. After a major restoration, this cherished institution is ready for a closer look. The Gothic Revival-style church was completed around 1885. It was designed by Thomas Houghton, the son-in-law and colleague of noted church architect Patrick Keeley. It's the oldest surviving Roman Catholic church in Queens. Although the congregation performed periodic maintenance, the exterior needed comprehensive work. That began by removing stucco coverings applied in past repairs, revealing the original masonry. Damaged bricks were replaced with ones matching the originals, and repointed with historically compatible mortar. Damaged brownstone and limestone ornaments were carefully repaired. All 34 historic stained glass windows were restored, with the outer hardwood frames replaced in kind. Their rich colors now shine through. Restoring the weathered steeple was the project's highlight. New Vermont slate matched the original and eliminated a two-tone look from earlier repairs. Copper paneling and louvers were custom made. A new cross topped it off. The church and its food pantry remained open for services throughout the project. The congregation is already thinking of future improvements. St. Raphael will continue to serve its parish and neighborhood for decades to come.
St. Raphael was built in 1865 by Irish and German immigrants as the cornerstone of a community at the time that was known as Blissville, which is now Long Island City. It's remained a neighborhood-based church that's rooted in Christ, family, and community service. The recent restoration and renovation of the church has brought much-needed revitalization to the building, preserving the treasure for future generations to worship and to serve the community. Finally, what I'd really like to do and what I find is most important right now is I'd like to dedicate this award to a Mr. Marek Smolsky from Century Restoration. Marek is one of our most beloved vendors, and unfortunately, he passed before the project was suddenly and unexpectedly before the project was completed. Marek's commitment and dedication to his craft was unmatched, and he was a beloved member of our community. And his daughter Cynthia is here with us tonight. I just want to thank you for showing the same dedication and commitment to the project that your dad had and bringing it to a close. You made him proud. Thank you and have a good night.
This impressive mansion has anchored its Fort Greene block since 1876. It's now an 8-unit co-op. The owners faced years of deferred maintenance. They decided to begin with repairing the brownstone. But, as often happens, the project grew into full facade restoration and window replacement. It took 4 years to complete, but the results are striking. Crisp details stand out on the brownstone facade. Hexagonal slates complement the refurbished dormers at the mansard. New wood windows ensure energy efficiency and better functionality. Ironwork now gleams. This was a major undertaking for a small co-op, but the residents embraced the opportunity to improve their entire property, and it paid off.
Good evening. Thank you so much. I'm honored to accept this award on behalf of the residents and myself, the other owners in the building. Many of us were long-timers in the building without actually realizing we were living in an impressive mansion co-op. There were so many problems that we put Band-Aids on over the years. I'm sure many people can relate to that. So it's especially surreal to be accepting this award while still having the memory of the time that we paid someone to put chicken wire on the slate shingles to keep them from flying off in high winds. As the president who had to take on this task, it was a steep learning curve for myself as well as the fellow owners. I laughed, I cried, I had a lot of help. So thank you so much.
The New York Stock Exchange is a local and global landmark. It holds the trading floor and offices of the largest securities exchange in the world. George Post designed this Beaux-Arts headquarters in 1903. The robust marble facade features classical elements. This project reestablished 28 pairs of doors along Broad Street and at balconies overlooking the interior trading floor. Fire and blast-resistant steel doors had replaced historic wooden ones, but new security measures allowed wood and glass doors to be reinstalled. Archival photos and some few remaining historic details inform the design of brand new mahogany doors that match the originals. They're enhanced with full glass lights and custom brass hardware. Deteriorated bluestone steps and pavers and the stone walls of the central door vestibule were also restored. This precise, case-by-case detailing pays homage to the building's original design. It also signals long-term stability regardless of the day-to-day fluctuation of the trading within its walls.
This recognition is not only a privilege, but a deeply meaningful acknowledgement of the work we do to preserve the architectural legacy of New York City. It's been a true privilege to work for the New York Stock Exchange, a building that represents not only financial history and capital markets, but the spirit and resilience of the city itself. You can see that in the market the last couple of weeks, for sure. Restoring the historic doors has allowed us to breathe new life into the facade, returning it to the grandeur and authenticity it once held. We're proud to have played part in honoring its past while securing its future. Thank you very much.
Developer Amber Mazur likes challenges. This Pacific Street building had quite a few. The 142-year-old villa had seen better days when Mazur purchased it. The elaborate wood porch, three-sided oriel windows, dramatic wood cornice, and brick facade were all deteriorated and sometimes failing. Mazur and his team transformed the building. It was stabilized. Bricks were restored and repointed. Wood elements at the cornice and porch were repaired or replaced to match the original. 20 original wood windows were removed, restored, reglazed with insulated glass units, and reinstalled. Windows that couldn't be restored were replaced to match their predecessors. Mazur also converted the single-family house into 2 full-floor duplex homes. He adapted a garage into living space and landscaped the property. This is the second building he's restored in Crown Heights North. Mazur got a Moses Award for that first one, too.
And I'm honored and proud to be on this stage and share this moment of recognition with the team. Also with us tonight are the deli owner across the street from the house at Pacific, and the security guard from the high school on our block, and the many neighbors that used to come and still come and were cheering us and encouraging the team as we were renovating the building, because it's theirs too. It breaks my heart when magnificent historic buildings are demolished by developers. We live in a world where the danger of losing precious public resources only to benefit single individuals at the expense of millions is very real. And my hope that our project, along with all the other honored tonight, will inspire a different approach, a win-win approach. To me, this is what we're celebrating tonight. Thank you very much.
The Little Angels, ringing the massive dome of the New Victory Theater, have looked down on 125 years of Broadway history. The New Victory opened in 1900. It is New York's oldest continually operated theater. Programming changed with the times, from live plays to musicals, burlesque, movies, and X-rated movies. It then had a prominent role in the Renaissance of the theater district, reopening in 1995 as Broadway's only theater for children. When the theater looked at restoration needs more recently, it became clear that the dome needed to be addressed. A piece of plaster had fallen onto the stage. Architects found the ornamental plaster details had large cracks and severe displacement. Fiber reinforcement was installed across the dome's flat plaster. The putti at the perimeter were resecured. New structural framing and anchorage were provided for the dome medallion. All the dome ribs were consolidated, and a new painted canvas cove cover was installed. Access to the ceiling also allowed for upgraded lighting. Teams of 10 worked around the clock for 57 days to ensure the curtain would rise in time for the next production. The New Victory retains its position as the Grande Dame of Broadway.
On behalf of the board of New 42 and the staff, I want to thank the New York Landmarks Conservancy for the Lucy Award. It is an honor we are very proud to receive. As you heard, New Victory Theater is the only theater in New York City solely dedicated to kids and families. We opened 30 years ago with a $2 ticket, and we have never raised the ticket price. Hold for applause. And then, in addition to that, many of our families and our young people, this is the first time they're seeing live performances. And what was wonderful about seeing the other recipients tonight, NYCHA Housing is a big partner of ours. So you can imagine our dedication to preservation comes from the fact that you have 5- and 6-year-olds walking into this extraordinary theater and saying, wow, this is for me? It's incredible. Thank you for everything you do. Thank you for acknowledging us. It's a privilege to be here. And thank you to all the other recipients.
This 1891 building got a new use and a twist, a contemporary interpretation of an original design element that was never built. Architect R.H. Robertson built what was originally a residence hall for young women in the Romanesque Revival style. Its robust masonry facade featured intricate details. The original scheme included a 7th story and peaked roof, but height limits for lodging houses prevented the top floor from being built. The building was used as a health center in the 20th century, and most interior details were demolished. The current owners purchased a now empty building in 2017 and undertook a significant reuse and restoration project. The interior is now a hotel. Outside, the upper floors of the historic facade were restored. The ground level facade had been removed, so a new sandstone and granite facade was created using historic photos as a guide. A new dramatic 7th floor sits behind a glass curtain wall and ultra-high-performance concrete screen. It reinterprets Robertson's unrealized gable design. The building now has a dynamic use and a facade that unites the old and the new.
The best way to frame this project was to say that every step of the way was a no. And no means no means no, and eventually you find some yeses. Jamie and I spoke to dozens of architects and project managers and contractors, and everyone said that this could not be done. And what we see now on 16th Street, and otherwise pretty quiet block, has now become a beautiful, beautiful, fully activated boutique hotel with Cafe Zafri and a members club and all sorts of new, fun, and interesting things happening. I'd like to say thank you for this award. We and everyone involved with this project really take it to heart. It was a labor of love, so thank you very much.
The Edward Mooney House was built between 1785 and 89. It's considered Manhattan's oldest surviving row house. The Federal-style building is also one of the city's earliest designated landmarks. Edward Mooney was a butcher and an important figure in the wholesale meat business. After his death, the house had a succession of colorful uses. These included a brothel, pub, rumored opium den, speakeasy, and an infamous saloon. There were interventions along the way. Work in the 1970s brought back some original components and a thick layer of red paint. The current owner is committed to restoring the building, despite discovering that many previous alterations compromised the structural system. After careful research and testing, conservation professionals stabilized the structure. They cleaned and repaired brick and brownstone facades, restored and repainted the wood cornice, and installed new wood windows, doors, and decorative elements. Much of the Bowery's fabled history was erased by bland new construction. We hope Edward Mooney is raising a glass somewhere, as delighted as we are that his home has survived.
New York has always embodied the old proverbial, out with the old and in with the new. It has been a stalwart of its bounding greatness and strength. She is, however, now an architectural old girl marching into the future. We are all custodians of the past, and contrary to the march of sometimes brutal profit and bottom-line driven development, the built environment does belong to us, the people. We have a duty to protect the sway and ebbs of our architectural past we've inherited, which leads me once again to thank the Landmark Conservatory for all its great and important works. I would also like to thank my father for my apprenticeship as a child, bringing myself up in the building industry and teaching me what I know. And lastly, for my wife for putting up with me. Thank you very much.
The General Society of Mechanics and Tradesmen of the City of New York has served craftsmen and the public for 240 years. This lamb and rich designed Italian Renaissance Revival building has been their headquarters since 1899. The Society holds its 200-year-old lecture series in a lovely first-floor library, topped by a large copper-framed skylight. The Society is proud of its building, but the skylight degraded after a 1990 restoration effort and developed active leaks. The flat roof and smaller skylights also needed work. Architects found cracked glass, corroded steel supports, failed weather stripping, and damaged copper elements. Lectures continued while scaffolding was inserted into the library. Workers replaced stainless steel framing, installed new copper panels, and inserted modern energy-efficient glazing onto the frames. This impressive skylight is once again a centerpiece of the library's historic grandeur.
We are very grateful to our team that worked hand in hand to restore our historic General Society Library's skylight. After this restoration, this crowning jewel sits majestically above the main library reading room. Its golden copper frame and luminous glass now appear as it was first conceived in 1903. Thank you to General Society staff members, our beloved program director, Karen Taylor, and our archivist and technical director, Angelo Vigorito, and to library chair Ellen Fish and artistic director, Thomas Donahue, for their input and support throughout the project. Thank you again to Peg Green and the New York Landmarks Conservancy for this great honor. Thank you.
Carrere and Hastings designed this elaborate Renaissance Revival palazzo in 1892 as the Baker Chocolate Company's New York headquarters. A candy company purchased the building in 1903 and hired architect Henri Fouchos to add 4 stories and an addition. The building was converted to commercial and residential uses in the mid-1970s. Comprehensive restoration was challenging. Subtle differences in the 2 phases of construction required multiple colors and textures for patching and replacement materials. The work addressed terracotta and marble components, and the structural brick and steel supporting systems. Terracotta repairs included grout injection for minor cracks and reinforced or pinned patches for major cracks and spalls. Pieces that were severely damaged were replaced with cast stone replica units. Thick layers of paint that trapped moisture were removed from the deteriorated marble base. The marble was restored and treated with Dutchman repairs. The copper cornice and cast iron columns were also repaired. The entire facade was carefully washed. The results are as sweet as the original owner's businesses.
So first, thank you. This is a surprise. It wasn't something that we set out to do. And this was really probably a 20-year endeavor. We hired Bone Levine Architects when I first moved in there. And over the years, Kevin and his team have sort of guided us through all sorts of things. First, replacing the roof, replacing the cornice, replacing windows. That was done 15 or 20 years ago. And a lot of this comes from that delightful local law 11, which the last phase where we ended up with the building that we have today was again guided by Kevin and his team. Lastly, I'd like to thank the Conservancy for this. But most importantly, we are a co-op, so I have to thank my fellow shareholders who paid for this. Anyway, thank you very much.
This lovely Georgian Revival-style building was completed in 1930 for the National Society of Colonial Dames in the state of New York. It's their social and administrative center. It's also a semi-public museum of America's colonial past. After many years without significant improvements, the exterior needed extensive repairs. The organization supported a comprehensive scope of work. The masonry was cleaned and repaired. Wood doors, windows, and shutters were refurbished. The slate mansard roof was replaced. It's now highlighted by new copper dormers. There were some unique challenges when original materials could not be reused, but there was no standard replacement. When a gypsum substrate under the mansard roofs had to be replaced, the project team developed a new sheathing system. They went to great lengths to match original plaster balustrades that decorate the rear facade and surrounding fence. In a nod to earlier times, new wood dowels replaced rusted steel nails in the multi-pane windows. This organization has a proud history. They have now ensured that their charming headquarters has a proud future.
Thank you for this honor and award, and thank you to the committee for this recognition of the efforts and the results of our work on the exterior restoration of our headquarters on East 71st Street. It is a wonderful thing to bring back a piece of the history of New York City and to be stewards of our historically important and now restored building in this city. This result cannot occur or be achieved without an excellent team of people who dedicated themselves to our project. It was a long road that we traveled together, and I cannot imagine better company for this adventure. What an amazing transformation. Thank you.
Our next award recognizes an incredible display of Broadway razzle-dazzle. All 14 million pounds of the historic Palace Theater were lifted 30 feet, then reinstalled with its opulent features intact. A large team of architects, engineers, and consultants did extensive research and planning. The 112-year-old theater is an interior landmark. The team made plaster molds of every ornamental element, cataloged salvaged items, and used non-destructive testing. The lift took over 4 months. It required precise vibration monitoring and constant tracing of temperature and humidity. The results combine preservation with contemporary functionality. Columns and historic plaster were preserved with updated finishes. Missing plaster elements were recast. Decorative paints were recreated. The double balcony, proscenium boxes, and orchestra-level promenade retain their original splendor. The 4-story move allows new uses at ground level while transforming the theater. There are new front and back of the house facilities, improved accessibility, and twice as much of important bathroom space. Playing the Palace was prized when it was the country's preeminent vaudeville theater. Now, attending legitimate theater there will be a highlight for actors and audience alike.
As many of you know, and just heard, the Palace Theater isn't just any Broadway house. It's a piece of the city's soul. It's a place where New Yorkers get together to learn and be entertained and communicate with each other. It has welcomed legends of vaudeville, W.C. Fields, Fanny Brice, music, Judy Garland, and of course the stage with Glengarry Glen Ross playing there now. It continues to evolve while providing and preserving its rich history. I mean, like many of you in this room who've taken on ambitious preservation efforts, we grappled with questions of when, how, and how much. The risks are real, but so is the reward. All preservation is both an honor and a responsibility. It's about safeguarding history while making space for the future. We are incredibly grateful to the New York Landmarks Conservancy for being fierce advocates for preservation and for celebrating the character that gives New York its heartbeat. And please, come visit the Palace Theater.
Everyone loves the Brooklyn Bridge. It's a milestone of engineering, an iconic symbol of the city. The Department of Transportation showed its love with a monumental 5-year restoration and conservation project. They surveyed every square inch using swing stage scaffolding, boom and scissor lifts, and a long extended scaffold. They focused on granite, limestone, and brick at the towers, anchorages, and arch blocks in Brooklyn and Manhattan. The project team employed multiple treatments. They repointed, repaired cracks, repaired Dutchmen, replaced bricks, pinned and patched. They reused salvage material whenever possible. Historic anchors were maintained and received surface treatment. Brick infill walls in the Manhattan arch blocks were reconstructed using salvaged granite sills. The surrounding areas are now public parks. Thanks to a new lighting system, the towers are even brighter at night. This iconic New York landmark has been given new life, providing inspiration to residents and visitors for years to come.
There is only one Brooklyn Bridge recognized as a global icon and a symbol of New York City. This project focused on the rehabilitation of the approach arches, the anchorages in both Manhattan and Brooklyn. The restoration provided structural upgrades and reinforcement to the bridge using historically accurate materials. I cannot express what an honor it has been to be such a part of this project and historic rehabilitation on this iconic landmark and engineering marvel. I am so humbled to be accepting this award on part of the city and the team, a little girl from the Bronx who went to Manhattan College and Preston High School and can bring out the Bronx accent anytime. I am so very honored and humbled to be in front of you all. Thank you.
Ann Friedman relished her title as the Jewish Church Lady. She earned it during her 24-year career as head of the Conservancy's Sacred Sites program, and developed an encyclopedic knowledge of religious institutions and their maintenance issues. She loved scrambling around roofs and touring the state, meeting congregants and preservation professionals. When she was in the office, she was often on the phone, devoting hours to hand-holding and problem-solving, and devoted incredible amounts of time to helping clear violations and find additional funding. Many religious institutions have been saved because Ann was both the impetus for their restoration and their long-term champion. Ann began ambitious surveys of religious buildings across the boroughs. She helped put as many as possible on the National Register so that these treasured buildings could be eligible for sacred sites and other grant opportunities. Ann guided the interns who helped perform the surveys, giving them valuable experience. And these surveys continue. Ann came to the Conservancy after a career at the city's Landmarks Preservation Commission. She remained active in her Brooklyn neighborhood, helping to expand the Boerum Hill Historic District. Many people become respected colleagues. Ann became beloved. She may be retired, but her fan club continues.
Thank you so much to the Conservancy's board and staff, to my fan club. I was incredibly lucky 24 years ago to be able to follow my colleague Alex Herrera, who's here tonight, who hired me at the Landmarks Commission in 1988 to the Conservancy in 2001. My time at the Conservancy was incredibly fulfilling, traveling the entire state, dispensing advice and grant funding to beautiful old churches and synagogues and mosques and temples, collaborating with clergy and lay leaders who are passionate about their congregations and their historic buildings. Peg, Breen, and the Conservancy board have been unwaveringly supportive of the work and the budget of the Sacred Sites program. Through economic ups and downs, the Conservancy has had loyal foundation support from individuals and nonprofits who understand that without watertight roofs and walls and windows, religious institutions can't house food pantries or daycare centers or provide social services or shelter to unhoused New Yorkers. I've also had the great privilege of working with many of you here tonight, clambering through unvented attics, climbing steeples, and inspecting roofs of all types. Thank you for your collaboration and for understanding the special nature of religious institutions, which often means limited budgets, phased repairs, and deliberative decision-making. It's also been rewarding to see many former interns from the last 2 decades go on to successful careers with your firms, with the Landmarks Commission, and with the Conservancy. And a big shout out to my family and to my colleagues and friends who are here tonight from LPC and the Conservancy, past and present. And thank you all for our great work together. And since I've started to do a little pro bono consulting on the side, I hope to work with some of you again in the future.
As we close, I owe a big thanks to my colleagues Andrea Goldwyn, Carla Ilo, and Rick Bruner, and also to our fabulous producer, Gil Gilbert. And of course, thanks to all of you. And I'll see you at the party.